In 1966, a small group of Ford engineers locked themselves in the basement of a Dearborn design studio and built something they were never allowed to build. A mid-engine sports car, dressed up in Mustang sheet metal, with a fiberglass body weighing just 2,650 pounds and a 289 high-performance V8 mounted behind the driver. They built it in secret, on their own time, without approval from anyone above them. 2 prototypes were finished. Both were ordered destroyed. That was 1970. By 2020, not a single person at Ford could explain what the car was, who approved it, or what happened to it. But this story doesn't start in a basement. It starts with a grudge. In 1963, Henry Ford II flew to Maranello, Italy, to close a deal that would have changed car history. Ford wanted to buy Ferrari. Not a partnership, not a licensing deal, the whole company. Enzo Ferrari had been talking terms for months. The lawyers on both sides had drawn up papers. Ford was ready to pay $18 million to take over Ferrari's road cars, its racing team, and the most respected name in European racing. The deal fell apart at the last moment. Whatever the reason, Henry Ford II took it as a personal insult. He was not a man who handled rejection quietly. He gave an order that would reshape American car engineering for the next decade. Beat Ferrari at Le Mans, not just show up. Crush them. On their own ground, in front of the European press, in the most famous endurance race in the world. That order launched the GT40 Program. Ford teamed up with Lola Cars, brought in Carroll Shelby, and spent tens of millions building a mid-engine sports car to beat the Ferraris that had owned Le Mans for 6 straight years. The early GT40s broke down, crashed, overheated. The 1964 Le Mans effort was a disaster, with all 3 Fords quitting before the finish. Ford burned through money, engineers, and trust. Then, in 1966, Ford swept the podium at Le Mans with a 1-2-3 finish. They won again in 67, 68, and 69. The GT40 is one of the most famous racing cars ever built, but the car itself is only half the story. What gets lost in the GT40's shadow is the culture it created inside Ford. Henry Ford II had declared a total performance push, and that order filtered down through every department. Racing budgets were huge. Engineers competed for money and status. And in the design studios run by Vice President of Design Jean Bourdonnat, a restless energy took hold among younger engineers who wanted to push further than the official programs would allow. The GT40 had proven that a mid-engine layout could win at the highest level of racing. The engine behind the driver meant better balance under braking and a lower center of gravity. These weren't wild ideas in the racing world, but in Detroit, where every street car still had its engine up front, the mid-engine idea felt like a door to the future that nobody had opened yet. A handful of Ford engineers decided they wanted to walk through that door, and they wanted to bring the Mustang with them. The project had no official name, no budget, no company sign-off, and no formal approval from anyone in Ford's chain of command. It was built after hours by engineers who had day jobs on other, fully approved programs. The workspace was the basement level of the Ford Design Center on Oakwood Boulevard in Dearborn, Michigan. Down there, away from the executive offices on the upper floors, away from the official prototype bays, and, most importantly, away from the eyes of managers who would have been forced to either make the project official or shut it down. Which, looking back, was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. These were Ford workers with full access to the company's parts bins, machine shops, and know-how. They had a point to prove. That the mid-engine layout proven by the GT40 could be turned into something based on existing Mustang parts, at a weight and cost that a real production program could pull off. What they built was remarkable for 1966. The fiberglass body saved hundreds of pounds over a standard Mustang shell. Total curb weight came in at roughly 2,650 pounds, more than 500 pounds lighter than a production Mustang fastback of the same year. The 289 high-performance 5.8, the same block that powered the standard Mustang's faster models, sat behind the cockpit in a lengthwise mid-mounted setup. Power went through a 5-speed manual gearbox, a transmission not offered in any Ford street car at the time, to the rear wheels through a fully independent rear suspension. The front end used production Mustang suspension, steering, and brakes, keeping costs down and the path to production short. From the outside, it looked like a Mustang that had been stretched, lowered, and reshaped by someone with an Italian eye. Familiar styling around the grille and headlights gave it a family look tied to the car that was already becoming America's most popular sports car. But the glass cabin was pushed forward, sitting almost directly above the front axle. The rear haunches were wider and more muscular, with air scoops feeding the mid-mounted engine. The roofline swept down in a way no production Mustang ever matched. And if you walked around to the rear, the engine bay where a trunk should have been made, the whole idea gut-level clear. This wasn't a Mustang with an engine swap. This was a totally different animal wearing a Mustang's face. The project eventually caught the eye of Carcraft, and that's where the story shifts from impressive to extraordinary. Carcraft was Ford's shadow shop in Brighton, Michigan, 40 miles northwest of Dearborn. The back room, where things that couldn't be talked about in public were built, tested, and when needed, made to vanish. They built the GT40 Mark IV that won Le Mans in 1967. They put together the Boss 429 Mustangs that were too complex for regular assembly plants. They prepped race cars, built prototype engines, and worked on test technology that regular engineering teams weren't allowed to know about. Workers were checked out. Projects were kept separate. If you needed something built that didn't officially exist, Carcraft was the only call you made. At least 2 working prototypes were finished under the Mach 2 name. The more polished was a red show car, built to a level of fit and finish well beyond a basement project. The panel gaps were tight, the paint was clean. The inside, while not ready for a showroom, was trimmed and done to a standard that said someone with pull at Ford had plans for this car that went beyond just proving it could work. This decision seemed small at the time. It wasn't. That red car was photographed on Ford property on May 2nd, 1966, by Ford's official photo team. Someone with enough rank to book a photo session had signed off on recording the car, even though it had no formal program approval. Those negatives went into the S-Negative photo archive, a vault holding hundreds of thousands of images of every vehicle Ford had ever created. That archive was meant to last forever. It didn't. For a brief window in the mid-1960s, the Mach 2 lived in a strange middle ground, real enough to be photographed on Ford property in broad daylight, official enough to carry a name, have Carcraft backing, and get a professional photo shoot, unapproved enough that no engineering reports, test results, development memos, or program reviews show up anywhere in Ford's surviving records. The car was recorded and invisible at the same time, and the timing of what happened next was almost too perfect. By the late 1960s, the total performance era was dying under the weight of outside pressure. Insurance companies were jacking up rates on performance cars to brutal levels. Ralph Nader's fight for car safety had changed the mood in Washington. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration was putting out rules that made lightweight sports cars harder to defend. Henry Ford II was pulling the company back from racing. The freewheeling culture that had let the Mach 2 exist in the first place was dying off. Performance was becoming a dirty word in the boardroom. In 1970, Ford closed Carcraft. The Brighton shop had done its job during the racing years, but with factory-backed racing winding down and government rules getting tighter, there was no business reason to keep running a secret build shop. When those doors shut for the last time, a standard company process kicked in. Prototypes were to be destroyed. Test cars were to be crushed. Anything carrying test technology or private engineering data was supposed to be wiped out, turned to scrap metal. Both Mach 2 prototypes were on that kill list. The red show car was last tracked in November of 1970, near the Carcraft shop in Brighton. After that, the trail goes dead. No bill of sale, no crushing receipt, no scrapyard record. The car simply stopped existing in Ford's files. Except Ford's destruction rules were not nearly as tight as the company thought. Across the same era, Ford workers at every level were quietly, one by one, fighting the exact same destruction orders. An engineer named Vince Gardner hit a pre-production 1963 Mustang called Shorty, the oldest surviving Mustang, the only 2-seater fastback ever built. In a loft above a Detroit metal shop, he couldn't stand watching it get crushed. Ford declared it stolen and collected $10,000 in insurance. Gardner was caught, but his rule-breaking saved a car that later sold for over $500,000. The engineers who built the 1962 Mustang 1 concept, the 2-seater roadster Dan Gurney drove at over 120 miles per hour at Watkins Glen, played hide-and-seek with the car for years to keep it from the crusher. They moved it between buildings, stored it where bosses wouldn't look. Ford gave in. The Mustang 1 now sits in the Henry Ford Museum. A Ford executive quietly wrangled some paperwork to save the Green Hornet, a 1968 Shelby test coupe with electronic fuel injection, independent rear suspension, and 4-wheel disc brakes, features that wouldn't reach production Mustangs for decades. It then spent years as a plain daily driver, its meaning totally unknown to its later owners. You'd think someone would have said something. Nobody did. They broke the rules because the rules were wrong. In 2025, Ford admitted this for the first time. CEO Jim Farley told archivist Ted Ryan to find cars that workers had secretly kept over the decades. The result was the Ford Heritage fleet. roughly 50 vehicles pulled from retired workers who had squirreled away prototypes, from inside departments that had quietly kept cars off the kill lists, and from plant managers who had refused to crush the last car off the line. Ford's Prototype Destruction Program, a company rule enforced for decades under the direct say of Henry Ford II, had been quietly broken from the inside by its own people. Which brings us back to the Mach 2. Was the Red Show car crushed in November of 1970? Or was it saved by someone at Carcraft who couldn't bear to watch it die? By 2020, 54 years had passed since those photos were taken. Every engineer who had worked on the Mach 2 was either retired, out of reach, or dead. The company knowledge that might have explained the car's origin, purpose, and fate had simply faded away over time. Ford's S-negative photo archive had taken massive water damage in a flood. The negatives themselves, hundreds of thousands of one-of-a-kind images on film, were partly saved. But the index system, the detailed linking catalog that tied each negative to a specific program, designer, and date, was destroyed. Without that index, the surviving negatives were just pictures with no backstory. Ford performance archivist Ted Ryan came across 4 photos stamped May 2nd, 1966. They showed a mid-engine sports car with Mustang styling on Ford property. It matched nothing in Ford's official history. He reached out to Hal Sperlich, who had been head of design planning on the original Mustang and later became one of the most important product planners in Detroit history. Sperlich couldn't place it. He reached Jack Telnack, who served as Ford's vice president of design from 1980 to 1997, a career that covered nearly the entire modern era of Ford design. Telnack couldn't place it either. Ryan went through every channel inside the company, every retired designer and engineer he could find. The answer was the same every time. Nobody at Ford, past or present, could tell him what he was looking at. And no, I'm not making that up. The company that built this car could not figure out what it was from their own files. In March of 2020, Ford put the 4 photos online with a simple request. If anyone in the world could help name this car, Ford wanted to hear from them. The Blue Oval was asking hobbyists, historians, and forum members to crack a mystery that their own company knowledge could not solve. The response was fast and intense. Car historians, Mustang registry experts, and forum members around the world started studying every detail of those images. The glass cabin shape, the fender flares, the wheelbase, the wheels, the body line running from the front wheel arch toward the rear. Each piece was measured and argued about across dozens of online groups. Slowly, an agreement formed. The photos matched scattered notes in old Ford design papers about the Mach 2 concept, a name from the mid-1960s Advanced Vehicles Group. The build quality and mid-engine layout pointed to Carcraft as the only shop with the skill and secrecy to build it. Ford accepted this answer. The mystery of what the car was had been solved, at least partly. The mystery of where it went has not been solved. The Red Show car is still totally missing. Old photos prove it existed as a polished, cleanly finished car, not a rough test mule or a clay styling model. Someone at Ford or Carcraft put real time, money, and skilled hands into making this car look right. And sometime around November of 1970, when Carcraft's doors closed for the last time, it dropped out of every known record. There are 3 options. The first is the simplest. The red Mach 2 was crushed under standard rules, and the missing paperwork is just a filing gap. This is the most likely answer. It is also the least satisfying. The second is that someone saved it, the same way Gardner saved Shorty, the same way the Mustang 1 engineers ran their inside witness protection program, the same way the Green Hornet was wrangled out through creative paperwork. The Mach 2 could be sitting in a barn, a pole building, or a private garage in Michigan right now, covered in decades of dust, its fiberglass body still whole, its true name unknown to whoever owns it. Someone who thinks they have a strange Mustang project car from the late 1960s might be sitting on one of the most important Ford prototypes ever built. The third is that the car was taken out through back channels, sold cheap or given away, and later stripped of its test parts. The mid-mounted engine pulled, the 5-speed gearbox removed, the independent rear suspension parted out. What's left might be an empty fiberglass shell on someone's land, looking like a dumped kit car project. It's linked to Ford's secret history hidden from anyone who doesn't know what to look for. I mean, think about that for a second. A one-of-one mid-engine Ford prototype, built in secret, ordered destroyed, could be parked in someone's garage right now, and neither the owner nor Ford would know it. The Mach 2 stands for a real fork in the road for American car history. In 1966, Ford engineers proved a mid-engine sports car could be built from existing Mustang parts at a fighting weight. They did this 53 years before Chevrolet showed the mid-engine Corvette C8 in 2019. When the C8 came out, the press treated it as a once-in-a-lifetime shift, but the idea had already been proven, in a basement, in Dearborn, by engineers who didn't have permission to prove it. If Ford had chased the Mach 2 instead of killing it, the whole path of the American sports car might have been different. The Mustang could have turned into a mid-engine platform decades before the C8 existed. The rivalry between Ford and GM might have played out on totally different terms. The technology was there, the proof was there. What wasn't there was the company will to follow through. And that's the real tension at the heart of this story. The tension between engineers who build things because they believe in them, and companies that destroy those things because they don't fit the business plan. The single overhead camera engine, banned by NASCAR and never sold to the public. Little Red and the Green Hornet, ordered crushed and saved through quiet defiance. The Mustang 1, hidden from the company that paid for it. The Mach 2 fits that pattern perfectly. Built by believers, killed by policy. And possibly, just possibly, saved by someone who understood that the rules were worth breaking. As of today, the red Mach 2 show car has never been confirmed destroyed or surviving. Ford's own archivists cannot account for it. Every engineer who could have told us what happened has taken the answer with them. The real question is whether someone in Brighton, Michigan, in November of 1970, looked at that red car and made the same choice that Vince Gardner made, that the Mustang 1 engineers made, that the unnamed executive who saved the Green Hornet made, whether someone broke the rules one more time, and if they did, that car is still out there. If there is a barn in Michigan, or Ohio, or anywhere in the upper Midwest, with a strange-looking fiberglass Mustang sitting under a tarp, its engine mounted behind the seats where no Mustang engine should be, it might be worth a closer look.